Grand Theft Auto, the Trilogy Definitive Edition is coming sometime this fall. We don't know an exact release date or prices at the recording of this video. Hopefully soon Rockstar will give us those answers, and when they do, I will let you know. Maybe we'll get a trailer soon. That would be nice as well. I've compiled a wish list of some of the things I personally want to see and maybe not see when it comes to the GTA Trilogy Definitive Edition, changes I would like to see made, improvements, whatnot. Let me know below in the comment section the changes you want to see and things you would like to see fixed or improved upon, and things that you would like to see Rockstar leave the hell alone when it comes to the GTA Trilogy Definitive Edition below in the comment section. First off, let's talk about the graphics. I think that if we go by the newswire from last week, the segment here, it talks about how there is going to be graphical improvements, modern gameplay enhancements for all three titles, but they're also going to be trying to maintain the classic look and feel of the originals. So I think, personally, that there is going to be improvements graphically to the definitive editions of 3, Vice City, and San Andreas. I don't think it's going to look up to the level of, say, GTA 5 graphically, where GTA 5 is on the Rage engine. We have the definitive edition of the Trilogy on Unreal Engine. Originally, it was actually renderware, but I guess they're not going to use renderware anymore because that's owned by EA. So graphically, I don't expect 3, Vice City, San Andreas, the definitive editions to look up to the level of GTA 5, but they don't necessarily have to. They can have their own unique look that also pays homage to the original games. But I do think there needs to be updates and improvements when it comes to the graphics of GTA 3, Vice City, as well as San Andreas, along with solid, smoother frame rates than the original versions of the game. Remove the loading time between parts of the map, because some of you may recall whenever you would move from one part of the map to another part of the map, there would be a loading screen like Welcome to Liberty City or Vice City, San Andreas. You get the idea. I don't think that's necessary anymore in this day and age. I think you should be able to move around the map whenever you're able to as you unlock regions of the map when you progress through the stories of 3, Vice City, and San Andreas. I don't think that there needs to be that loading time anymore. And another thing I think they should improve upon is the draw distances. That way you don't have cities and buildings just popping up or trees popping up. It looks really, really obvious. I hope that the draw distance is considerably better when it comes to the definitive editions of GTA 3, Vice City, as well as San Andreas. Now let's talk about settings. I think the more settings, the better, because some of you out there love to have a variety of settings to choose from. Some of us are very basic. We'll just go with what they give us, but it's also nice to have options. Difficulty. I hope there's a few different difficulties, like a standard, as well as, say, a classic mode, whereas the standard mode would be, maybe checkpoints, make it a little bit easier for the average player that never had to endure GTA 3, Vice City, or San Andreas, because those can be challenging games. So maybe the classic mode would be for players that beat those games and want a little bit of replayability, when they want to go back and really test their skills and see if they can actually beat those games on challenge mode. That would be awesome as well. But I also wouldn't mind a new game plus setting, going back to, I guess, difficulties, whereas you could start on standard difficulty, but if you beat 3, Vice City, San Andreas, you can restart the game and you can play it in new game plus. And it's a little bit more difficult, but at the same time, you already have all the weapons and everything you've acquired from your first playthrough. I don't know if it's going to happen, but personally, I wouldn't mind seeing New Game Plus as part of the GTA Trilogy Definitive Edition. Controller setting options. I hope that they have a variety of controller setting options. And I think that they mentioned that in the newswire once again. Modern gameplay enhancements could very well imply that the control setting, the mapping, will be similar to the way it is for GTA 5 and GTA Online, which I personally approve of because I've gotten used to the way the controls are for GTA Online over the past 8 years. But at the same time, for players that still like the 3D mapping of the controls, I hope they have the ability for us to, toggle between different variations of controller settings. Visual options are also important because there's a lot of players out there that are visually impaired, colorblind. By the way, thanks Brian for this suggestion. So I hope that there's different visual options for players that have issues like low-level visibility, as well as some degrees of blindness and color blindness. That'll help them as well. Audio issues, because there's people that are hearing impaired, so hopefully there's a variety of audio options, display options, etc. when it comes to settings. Next, let's move on to fixing the known problems, issues from the original games. As much as I love playing through 3, Vice City, San Andreas, I know it, you know it, those games haven't exactly stood the test of time, nostalgia-wise, and they have their fair share of bugs, issues, glitches, problems. And I'm sure Rockstar is aware of that over the past, nearly 2 decades now. They are hopefully going to have Rockstar Dundee work out, resolve, and do away with the majority of those problems that existed in 3 Vice City and San Andreas. I guess we'll find out one way or the other when the games officially come out. Now let's talk about music and the radio stations. An important part of the worlds of 3 Vice City and San Andreas is the music. It's also the radio stations. A lot of us are concerned that there might be changes to the radio stations as well as the music of those radio stations because of licensing, because we had that problem happen with GTA 4 with the Russian station. They butchered that station because of licensing issues. So I hope that Rockstar, which is a multi-billion-dollar corporation, will renew the licenses for the music of 3 Vice City as well as San Andreas and ensure that the music as well as radio stations of all 3 games remain intact. Do not change the radio stations. Do not remove any of the music, Rockstar. If you want to add additional songs, that's totally fine by me as long as it fits the radio stations. But please leave the music and the radio stations as is. You do not need to improve that at all, in my opinion. Now let's talk about some, basic improvements that I would like to see to the gameplay itself. And feel free and let me know some improvements you would like to see as well. A lot of this is in hindsight because over the years, Rockstar has made improvements to the GTA franchise from 3 all the way to 4 and to 5. I want to see some checkpoints. That would be awesome. Better aim abilities, control the mapping. We talked about that in settings. The ability to take cover would be nice. The interactive map for GTA 3. Most of you are aware of this by now. Whereas Vice City and San Andreas had interactive maps in the pause menu you could look at and move around and see where everything was at. Unfortunately, in GTA 3, we never had an interactive map. So hopefully Rockstar will go back and give GTA interactive map of Liberty City. I would also like to see Claude and Tommy have the ability to swim. I think that this is important because eventually Rockstar figured out that issue with CJ and San Andreas. And all too often, I found myself, and many of you have as well, almost done with a mission or going through Liberty City or Vice City, and you accidentally go into the water and you're dead, Jim. I think that's ridiculous. So I hope that they give Claude and Tommy the ability to swim. I know that some people are against it because they think it'll be game breaking or it may go against canon, but at the same time, we are fully aware of the fact that the reason why Claude and Tommy couldn't swim was because Rockstar just didn't know how to make those characters swim at the time. So I don't think it's too much to ask to give us the ability for them to swim in GTA 3 and Vice City. I don't think it's going to completely change the game for the worse. In fact, I think it will change the games for the better. I would like to have the ability to set waypoints similar to how we can in GTA 4, the Red Dead franchise, as well as GTA 5 and online. And some of you have suggested fast travel. Maybe they could use the taxi cabs to at least fast travel back to the beginning of a mission or back to a safe house. That'd be cool if we had some limited fast travel abilities. I like the idea of some degree of fast travel in all 3 games, even though the maps of 3 Vice City, San Andreas is a little bit bigger, but they're not huge maps. But fast travel in an open world game is always a welcome option, in my opinion. Now, when it comes to the way the games are, story-wise, character, dialogue, etc., I do not want to see anything removed, censored, or changed in that degree when it comes to GTA 3, Vice City, or San Andreas. I realize there are things that have been changed over the years, like the Haitians, the Cubans, some dialogue in Vice City regarding those gangs. Obviously, I'm not asking for that to be returned to Vice City. What I'm saying is I don't want to see anything else chopped out of GTA 3, Vice City, or San Andreas when it comes to the missions, characters, dialogue, etc. Hopefully Rockstar will leave those intact, very similar to what I was requesting when it comes to the music and the radio stations of all 3 games. Speaking of content, I would like to see some additional content added to GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas. And I'm sure there was content that was cut that never was added to the game. I'm not referring to hot coffee. I don't think that's ever going to happen, so forget about it. But there probably was other cut content for 3 Vice City and San Andreas that I wouldn't mind seeing, restored and re-added to those games. And also, I would not mind seeing the ability for us to have items in 3 that eventually were added to Vice City or San Andreas. Case in point, I wouldn't mind helicopters being added to GTA 3. Yes, I realize the police have helicopters. I would like the ability as Claude to hop into a helicopter and fly around Liberty City. So I think that would be a cool idea. Maybe some clothing options for Claude. Maybe that's not going to happen, but it'd be cool if we could have clothing options for Claude. The same thing goes for Tommy, CJ. I would just like to see them just add a little bit something more to 3, Vice City, San Andreas as well. I realize adding motorcycles to 3 kind of breaks the canon because there were no motorcycles in 3. And they tried to explain why there weren't motorcycles in there because of Liberty City stories. Like there was a group out there trying to make motorcycles illegal in Liberty City. I guess you could still have motorcycles because Claude's a criminal. Why does he care if motorcycles are illegal or not illegal? So I guess you could add motorcycles to 3 if you wanted to, even if it does kind of go against the lore and canon of GTA Liberty City and GTA 3. Another thing that some people pointed out in the achievements, because the achievements were leaked prior to the official announcement of the GTA Trilogy Definitive Edition, was this particular achievement icon, which looks like a Bigfoot. And there's always been this myth about Bigfoot wandering around in San Andreas. No one ever found Bigfoot. This has led some people to believe that Rockstar is actually adding Bigfoot as some sort of Easter egg in San Andreas, the Definitive Edition, which I think would be really cool. I hope that they do the same thing for San Andreas, Vice City, as well as 3. For the record, I would not mind seeing some additional content added to 3, Vice City, or San Andreas. I think most of you probably feel the same way. Now let's talk about the prices. Once again, at the recording of this video, all we have are rumors and speculations regarding what the prices might or might not be for this set, the GTA Trilogy Definitive Edition. This is what they're saying it's going to be. Doesn't mean it's true or not. $60 for the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PC, Switch versions of GTA Trilogy Definitive Edition. $70 for PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series. Bruh. If that's true, then you have to ask yourself why. Why are you going to charge us an extra $10, Rockstar, for the same game, but on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series? That does not make sense, especially since I seriously doubt that there's going to be that major of a difference between the PS4, Xbox One versions compared to the PS5, Xbox Series versions of GTA Trilogy Definitive Edition. In my opinion, if that's true, there's no justification for making PlayStation 5, Xbox Series gamers pay an extra $10 for a game that people on PS4, Xbox One, PC, and Switch are getting to buy for $10 less. All versions of the GTA Trilogy Definitive Edition, in my opinion, should be the same price. I feel like getting $60 out of us regarding the Definitive Edition is a little generous, in my opinion. As much as I love 3, Vice City, San Andreas, they'd have to do an awful lot to these 3 games in order to make me feel like that they are worth the cost of $60, because the original versions of 3, Vice City, San Andreas, which were in the stores until this last week, now removed forever by Rockstar, didn't cost as much. So while some people are not expecting much out of the GTA Trilogy Definitive Edition, I actually kind of am, especially with the price tag that they are going to charge us. And like I said, it better be $60 all around. The only reason why they would slap a $70 price tag for the PS5 and Xbox Series versions of the same game is greed, pure and simple. And the final item on my wish list revolves around GTA Online gamers that actually buy the Definitive Edition of the GTA Trilogy. GTA 3, Vice City, San Andreas, unique content, clothing, vehicles, weapons for GTA Online players who buy the GTA Trilogy Definitive Edition. There's some vehicles that they could include with that, like the Diablo Stallion, some weapons that I've been wanting in the game for a while. This is a great opportunity to add those weapons. Chainsaw, flamethrower, katana. The list goes on and on, so I hope that Rockstar does reward the loyal fan base of GTA that plays GTA Online, that also decides to pick up GTA Trilogy Definitive Edition when it comes to rewarding GTA Online players who end up also buying Grand Theft Auto Trilogy, the Definitive Edition. So there you go, that's my wish list. Some of the stuff I want to see, as well as things I don't want to see when it comes to the GTA Trilogy Definitive Edition for 3, Vice City, as well as San Andreas. Now's your opportunity to let me know what you want to see, what you don't want to see when it comes to these 3 remastered games below in the comments section.